So this is the first turn, and if you're new to playing Empire Total War, then my first tip would be that you adopt a systematic approach to each turn so that you don't forget anything. And the first thing I'd recommend that you do, if not every turn, then certainly on a regular basis, is check your government, because the foundation of a successful nation is a successful government. So let's have a look at the government of Prussia. It's an absolute monarchy, so we've got a king. We've got King Frederick I. The good news is that he's not mad, unlike the King of Spain. He's a 3-star. He's an enlightened despot. He corresponds with the learned. So he's not a bad king, but even if he was, we couldn't do anything about him. It's just that in this particular instance, we're lucky that he isn't mad. But we can do something about improving our ministers. Most of them look pretty good. But unfortunately, this guy Otto that we mentioned in the last video is not. He basically is bent as a 5-bob note. So I'm going to sack him straight away. And as you can see, he's instantly replaced by Kurt Watcher, who's come from the candidate pool below. Now he's quite a good Navy minister, but if you look at his qualifications, he's got a harsh reputation and he's honest, and he's actually got more stars than our Justice Minister. So given that he's going to get a +1 to Justice Administration, I'm actually going to make him my Justice Minister, leaving the former Justice Minister, Samuel Kochody, as the Minister of the Navy. The problem is that if you check the candidates down the bottom here, you'll find that Ernst Kastner is a patron and therefore gets a +1 for naval administration. So he's as good as Samuel at the Navy, and I've got a mind actually to put him in charge of the Navy. But before I do that, we're going to go. I'm going to give you another tip, and that is when you're replacing ministers, always get rid of all the idiots at the same time. So we've got one 2-star chap here who's no good to anybody. He's morally impaired as well. We've got a 3-star who, although he's a patron of the Navy, he's not particularly good. And this guy who isn't too bad, but his real skill lies in justice administration, and we already have a good justice minister, so he's surplus to requirements. So what I'm going to do literally is promote all these people into the Navy first, and essentially sack them all one after the other until I get to the one that I really want to promote, which is Ernst, and I'll put him in charge of Navy. What that achieves is that it clears your candidate bar, which means that over the next few terms that will gradually fill up with new candidates. So you can actually clear out all the dross from your candidate bar, and you get a chance for some more rising talent to appear in the foyer, as it were. So that's really sorted out the government. That's probably about the best that I'm going to achieve, and it's quite a good lineup, in fact. I'll just make sure there's nobody. He's something of a banker and he's in the Treasury, so that makes sense. He's got half reputation. He's a Justice Minister, camp follower, makes him. Yeah, everybody seems to be in the right position. So that's the government sorted out, as far as I'm concerned. Having sorted out the government, the next thing I'm going to look at is Policies tab. Now, the reason I didn't look at the Policies tab first is that changes in government ministers have a direct impact upon the happiness of the nobility and the lower classes. So if you look at the Policies tab first and alter your taxation levels, and then you go to the government and swap your ministers around, you can actually influence the happiness of the people with their taxation level. So you then have to go back to the policies tab and look at it again. So the most efficient way of doing it is to get the government sorted out first, then look at the policies. And I'm going to take a very simplistic approach with the tax, which is to rack it up to the highest level I can possibly charge. So I can increase taxation of the nobility right up to the maximum without them rebelling. I can't do that with the lower classes because Brandenburg gets a bit upset. I'm going to just drop the taxation a bit for the lower classes, and that seems to be the highest tax that I can get away with. That's increased total income from taxes from 4,204 to 5,681, which means I'll get an additional 1,477 income per term from taxation. However, that's not without its penalties. If you look at the nobility, as a result of taxing them so heavily, I've now influenced town wealth growth by minus 32%. I've not made them very happy. And if you look at the lower classes, I've actually reduced their population growth. So taxing them so heavily, the nobility have basically stopped investing in their own businesses, which means that economic growth has been stunted. And in the long term, that's going to be a bad thing for Prussia. With the lower classes, I've discouraged them from having children, basically. Either that, or I've caused such poverty that they're starting to starve to death. This is a short-term policy, however, and as the old saying goes, Prussia is not a country with an army, but rather an army that has a country. And we're only two regions. We need the money in order to survive, and I'm going to have to get that money from the population. So, harsh times, and that's what needs to be done. The next thing I'd recommend you look at is the diplomacy panel. It's worth going through the diplomacy panel in detail right at the start of the game before you do anything else, because I've noticed that as soon as you move anything or click the end turn button, it affects the attitude of other factions to you. So it's worth actually securing as many treaties and deals as you can before you influence the opening diplomatic status of your country. So I'm just going to try and make as many treaties as I can before we get into the game proper. What I'm going to do is sort the major nations first into order of friendliness. As you can see, Great Britain is the most friendly towards us at the moment. So the first thing I'm going to do is try to enter into a trade treaty with Great Britain. Request trade agreement. And they've accepted that. That's good. So we've got a trade agreement with Great Britain. That's used up one of our trade options. I'll try to enter into a trade agreement with the Ottoman Empire as well. Yep, they've accepted as well. And I'll even try and enter into a trade agreement with Austria. And they've accepted. So that's good. What I haven't done is make any alliances. And I know Miss Whiplash recommends entering into alliances. And they do tend to dissuade other countries from attacking you. The negative aspect of being in an alliance is that if your ally attacks somebody, you have a expectation. There is an expectation that you will join in their war, and basically I don't want to join in any wars. So if I, for instance, was allied with Great Britain and they attacked France, that would imply that I'm expected to declare war on France, and I won't necessarily want to. So I tend to be a little bit wary about alliances. Let's just have a look at the minor nations. we again sort them into order of friendliness. I could in fact enter into a trade agreement with Saxony if they'll accept one. Yes, they will, but they want £110 for the privilege. Personally, I would not hesitate to bribe people, because that's basically what's being offered here, is a bribe. You pay me £110, I'll enter into a trade agreement. The chances are you're going to get that money back in one turn of trade, so pay them, not a problem. And I think that's used up all my trade. Yeah, I can't enter into any more trade agreements. The only other thing I'm going to do while I'm here is actually try to make peace with the Barbary states. It's a long shot, but might as well. No, they're not going to pay. Okay, so I mean, I haven't got a navy anyway, so they're not going to cause me a lot of trouble. But it would have been nice to have just got them off the panel. Oh, the other thing I was going to do is try to sort out this access agreement with Poland. See if they'll actually go for that. Military access. We'll go for indefinite. Oh, no, I don't want to offer access. No, they're not going to agree to that. I wonder if I can offer them anything. I could give them plug bayonets. Do I really want to give them plug bayonets? No, I don't really want to give them plug bayonets. I'll give them some money. See if they'll accept some money. Yeah, military access. This is all very unlikely to work. Okay. So we'll forget that. So that's diplomacy. I think we've achieved about as much as we can achieve there. Yeah, I was just contemplating whether to form an alliance with someone, but I can't really see any benefits to forming an alliance with anyone at the moment. In the past, I have allied myself with Hanover and ended up getting dragged into a war with Saxony. I might actually want to attack Saxony, but I'd rather choose a timing myself. And the advantage of being allied to Hanover is pretty slight anyway. Okay, so that's diplomatic relations done. The next thing I'm going to do is look at research. But before I actually look at the research panel, I'm just going to move our gentleman into the college at Magdeburg. Because he'll obviously have an impact on our research rates. So let's have a look. I usually have a look to see how long it's going to take to research things. So I can research square or carbines. Square is much more useful as a research, so I'm going to put that down. Canisters take slightly longer. Agricultural research takes slightly longer. So does textile industry research. Could go for empiricism. I'm going to go with the square formation. I don't actually need it straight away. No, I'm not. I'm going to change my mind. I'm actually going to go for empiricism. It gives me 5% technology research rate anyway, plus 1 to town wealth, so it's going to offset that penalty a bit. So that's probably worth going for. We'll go for that first. It's only 2 terms. I tend to go for the research subjects which are researched quite quickly. I don't like waiting around for a while, because I find that even if they're not exactly what I want, if I'm ahead of the research game, I can often trade them with other people to get what I do want. So it's worth just getting as much as you can as quickly as you can, in my opinion. So that's research, and that's also all we've got time for on this video. So click on the link and we'll carry on with term 1 in the next episode.